If you're thinking about using resin sand on your next project, this tutorial is for you. We're out here today at Hardscape Mentor Studios, and we brought in Greg Crouse from SEK-Surebond. We're talking all things resin sand, when, where, and how to use it. Greg, is this something that we're going to switch fully to, or when are we using this resin sand?
I think the resin sands are another tool in the toolbox, Dan. There's a place for it that it's great, and there's a place for it that it's probably not the best solution. So a couple of the key points are the resin sands are all drainable or permeable, so they allow water to drain through the system. So we want to make sure that we're using an open graded or permeable base, so we're allowing that water to go through and then we're managing it below in the subgrade. Secondarily, with most sands, there's a joint restrictions on it. With our Hydrosweep, we can do as little as 1/8 of an inch. That's the smallest one on the market. And we can do as much as 1.5 inches. I can't do very tight joints. I can't do small pavers with the resin sands. They just don't work well. And then I think one of the best reasons is because we install this completely different than polymeric sand, we're installing it with water. You can put this product in the rain. Now, I don't want to do it in a downpour, but if it's raining or going to rain, we can still install this product where we can't do that with a polymeric sand.
So we got a garage apron scenario over here, a small patio installation. Let's go ahead and show everyone how we put the Hydrosweep in this town hall.
So step one, completely different than the polymeric sand, is we're going to pre-wet the pavers. And you'll notice the difference between the town hall and the Brussels, how it reacts to the water. The Brussels on a sunny site is going to dry out a little faster than the town hall.
The town hall is a wet cast product and it has that coating on there,
It
right?
does, yep. So just like the polymeric sand, Dan, we're going to open the bag and dump it in a zigzag pattern. Now, given the size of it, I'm going to dump about half the bag or 3/4 of the bag, but I don't want to make a big pile and bulldoze it around. In this case, it's mostly a labor savings method because I can spread it faster out of the bag than I can with the squeegee. So I'm going to start by just adding water. And remember, the water is just a tool. So you can add as much or as little water as you want. I typically use the shower setting for this stage. And once it starts to get wet, you can start moving it around. And I'll just work with you and we'll communicate on whether you want more or less water. And it's important to kind of work together.
Right, I'm going to go to this corner.
Yep, and I'm going to kind of help you by giving you water. And this is very adjustable. And the sand doesn't care how much water you use. Now we're going to go through and kind of start to set our heights. So there's a couple things we can do. We can go through with a fine broom and kind of set that height. Remember, we're looking for minimum of 1/8 of an inch. On these pavers, probably 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. Or the method that I prefer is we're going to work together again. And it works for you as a squeegee guy to kind of pull it instead of push it. And I'm going to switch to a fan or a flat setting. I flip the head on the nozzle around and I'm almost going to be horizontal. But we want to knock that height down, and you can just kind of squeegee the excess away.
Pull it.
Just kind of pull it, yep. Okay, so the method we've done so far is great. We're using the fan setting on a nozzle, we're squeegeeing the excess out of the way, we're working joint by joint and moving it out. The other method is to use a relatively soft broom, the softer the better. Usually we like to wait, once the time we sweep it in, maybe 15 to 30 minutes and let that sand start to set up a little bit, which we've done here. And then I can go at a 45-degree angle like we do with polymeric sand, and maybe even with the joints, and clean that up a little bit.
Because it's set up just a little bit.
It's just started to tack up just a little bit.
We can still work it.
Yep. I'll just kind of rinse behind you then. So our goal right now, whether we're using a squeegee or a broom, is to get the excess off the surface and to set that joint height down to a minimum of 1/8 of an inch.
And I like the idea, if I was ever use this, I would give you a call.
Yes.
If I was designing something and I was like, is this a good scenario for this? I would call my SEK rep, go over the whole design, go over the specifics of the site, problem I'm trying to solve for the client, if I don't have any drainage or something like that, is this a good time to use resin sand, Greg? Then you're going to provide a lot more a lot of information on why I should or shouldn't.
Yes. I'm happy to help at the end if you have a problem on a job. I'm much happier to help you when you ask me ahead of time.
In the beginning.
Okay, I'm just about finished here. One final rinse, and then we're gonna blow off all the excess water, because I think anytime you put water on a patio, you should blow it off. And then we're gonna talk about cleaning up.
All right, final step, right? Clean up.
Yeah, we're there. So we've got about 150 square feet, 144 square feet here, and we use about 2.5 buckets. So what do I do with the excess? We were fortunate we didn't really have enough left on the pavers to worry about, but if we did have a pile of leftover, I could put it in the bucket, or what we have here is what's left over in the bag. So I'm gonna dump that in the bucket, and then I'm gonna grab my hose and water, and I'm gonna fill that up within 1 inch of the top, no matter how much is left. 9/10 of a bucket or 1/8 of a bucket, it doesn't matter.
Displace the
We're displacing the air, because it's air activated. Now, I wouldn't use it next season, but as long as it's within the season that you open the bucket in, that's fine. And we don't want it to freeze with water in there, obviously. So we wanna make sure we clean this off. If that resin sets up on there, you won't be able to clean it off. Especially with the brooms, it tends to fuse the bristles together. The other thing we need to clean is the bottom of our boots. So we rinse off our boots. I like to take a rag and kind of use them to wipe the bottom of my feet off before I walk onto any other paved surfaces.
That's a good tip as well, yeah.
So it's been a couple hours since we finished, so there's a couple final steps that we can do. One of the things that's important and different with the resin sand as opposed to the polymeric sand, we had left some crumbs here on the surface from the sand from the sweeping process. With polymeric sand, after a couple hours, we'd be in big trouble. That would be hard to get off of there. But the resin sands don't stick to the pavers in the same way. So I'm able to simply go through with a broom and literally just kind of sweep that off. What I also noticed was that there was a few areas that were a little high in the paver joints. Like here, it's a little higher than I want it to be. The sand is firm but not set up yet. So I'm able to go through and adjust that either with a broom or in this case, because it's a little high, with a stiff bristle broom. These pavers make it a little bit more difficult because they're irregular in height by design and irregular edges. On a more structured straight edge paver, more regular edges, it's much easier to finish it without having to complete this step. But with these pavers, by design, they're supposed to look like old street pavers, so I can go through in these high spots and just rough them up a little bit and be a little bit more detailed in areas we may have missed to account for the texture difference in the pavers. I like to sweep it just to give it a final look, and then you're good to go and the project is complete.
So let's talk about the time frames of when our clients can get on this.
Sure, that's a great question. A little bit different than polymeric sand. So for pedestrian use, walkways, patios, things like that, 24 hours. So pretty similar to polymeric sand.
Yeah.
For vehicular, however, which the Hydrosweep is rated for residential vehicular, we need to wait 7 days before we put vehicles on it. So we want to be upfront with our clients at the beginning of that.
Well, that's a big difference, but just once again, reach out to your rep. Any scenario that you're going into, you put your design together and you have your surfaces and your spaces developed. Really think about the product that you're going to be putting in there, and then reach out to your rep and make sure that everything that you're thinking about agrees with what their product is capable of.